everyone. It's so good to be here, and it's so good to see you all. I have my speech and everything all prepared, but I don't know how many of you were familiar with our good friendship, but I have to share with you this story before I get into some meat and taters. So I hope that's okay. First of all, you can find me at danaradio.com. You can follow me on Twitter, DLoesch. Our Chip, the whole reason I started coming to Illinois, it seemed all the time to get into all kinds of trouble with these patriots here, you know, these anarchists, or whatever we want to call ourselves, was because of Chip. And he had this very devious mind, hysterically devious. And so he would come to St. Louis, return the favor. You know, he'd come to St. Louis and help us out with some stuff from time to time. And there was one incident. This was, I think, around like 2010. This was after Kenneth Lassie. I don't know how many of you are familiar with that story. He was beaten in the parking lot by some SEIU folks, kind, loving people. His crime was being capitalist while black. We didn't even know if he was a conservative, but he was profiled. And I'm against profiling. And so all of this happened, and then the president came into town, and they were doing a big fundraiser for one of the candidates, Claremont Capital. And so a bunch of us grassroots folks, we decided we were going to go downtown, and we were going to protest because we heard that SEIU was going to be there in all their purple glory, not the bruises, but the shirts. And so we arrived, and when we did, we all met in a parking lot. Chip showed up with a big box, and I was instantly terrified because I had no idea what was in this box. And he's, you know, this big gruff guy. He shows up with this box and this devilish grin. And he goes, "Y'all are going to put one of these on." And he started throwing out SEIU shirts to everybody. I know. So we did. We put them on, and we continued our trek downtown. And they had a huge police presence, and the entire city blocks were just completely shut down because there were thousands of people. It looked like a set on a movie. I've never seen so many people downtown before. And as we got into the fray, on one side were SEIU and progressives, and on the other side was the Gadsden flag, the American flag, Tea Partiers, patriots, new revolutionaries. And so we broke up into groups, and Chip and some of the bigger guys amongst us with their SEIU shirts, they went to the SEIU side. We went over to the Tea Party side, and we watched because they had all the media there. All these cameras, all these reporters with their, you know, they were just looking for something. You could tell something was about to happen. This was brilliant. After about a half hour, Chip and some of the folks that they came with, they managed to get right in the front of the barricades, and they were going along with everything. And then, very dramatically, they did one of these. Stepped around the barricade in the middle of the street, looked at the SEIU side, they looked at the grassroots side, and then they went while in their SEIU shirts. So the media ran to them, and they gave interviews as SEIU folks, and that's how you do that. See, two can play a Lidsky. No, I want to say that it is very nice to be here in a formerly gun-free zone capital of the United States. I hear, though, that you have, you know, because crime has been banned here. But I hear I'm told that it's going to take a couple of more months before all of that is fully implemented and kicked into gear. So criminals have just a couple of months before they have to move away, right? I wanted to bring this up because, you know, yesterday, obviously, our thoughts and prayers are with everyone affected at LAX, but as this was happening, I looked online. I was finishing up my broadcast. I'm broadcasting St. Louis and Indianapolis, and we have a huge reach into Illinois. More stations coming soon. And the founder of, I'm going to get her name wrong, the founder of the Franzia in the Driveway Club, no, the Million Women Who Are Bored Who Hate Guns Club. I don't remember what it is. Anyway, I say Franzia because it's these anti-gun folks. I think it's just a bunch of bored women who ran out of boxed wine in their driveway, so they decided to come and aggravate God-fearing, law-abiding citizens who never did anything to anyone except to peacefully and lawfully exercise their God-given civil liberty of the Second Amendment. I get a little testy about that. You can't tell I hide it well. But I just noticed they said, well, the thing that's wrong with this country are people like you gun owners and people like you, Dana Loesch. And I had a thought. I'm like, well, there seems to be more anger directed towards people who have never done anything and are law-abiding and are simply pointing out truth. And there's nothing wrong with the truth. The truth isn't nice and the truth isn't mean. It's simply, as a friend said once, just truth. And yet we are considered the problem. Now, I've never hurt anyone. I've received more threats against my life and the life of my children from anti-gun folks than I've ever received from law-abiding Second Amendment practitioners, as it were. But yet these individuals are the ones who constantly point fingers. Every time something happens like this, you always have, and I'm going to be very blunt because I'm not known for that regularly, let's just be straight up honest. I'm from the Ozarks, all right? You've got these tragedy whores that get out there and they sit here and stand on the graves of individuals to lecture to everybody else. Let's call it what it is, shall we? We don't have time for political correctness. So anyway, this lady who's with the Franzia drinking in the driveway club. That's what it is. I don't have anything against box wine, I'm just saying that's. But she said, well, every firearm is an assault weapon. Anything that can fire 10 rounds a minute is an assault weapon. I can fire 10 rounds a minute with my Joe Biden-approved shotgun. Just saying. You can shoot 10 rounds a minute with a revolver. Get a speed limiter. You all know this. No, basically these individuals show the importance of focusing on mental health and not firearms in these instances. And they always say that we need more of the laws that are already on the books. They'll talk about, well, we need background checks. Well, who said that we didn't have background checks? Oh, wait, you mean like they had in Fast and Furious? Background checks like when we were shipping arms to Syria? Tanks over to the Egyptian military? Or maybe, I don't know, background checks like for the IRS when we decided to allocate funding to them so that they could weaponize themselves and all of these other different departments. I mean, really, background checks there? Speaking of X-free zones, I have two big issues that I seem to be talking a lot about lately. One, obviously, is the Second Amendment. I have a book called Defenseless, all about this, coming out next year. And the second is the healthcare free zone of the United States, soon to be healthcare free zone of the United States. This is, I bring up the IRS because, when I have the thought of reforming healthcare, when I want to fix healthcare, my first thought isn't to hire 100,000 IRS agents. Unless they're going to be doctors, unless they're both doctors and IRS agents, which would be it means that they would actually finally accomplish something in that department. No, they're just IRS agents there to enforce. These are individuals who are there to make sure this isn't about health care, it's all about controlling insurance and then, ultimately, controlling you. That's what it's all about. I read a headline this morning that we are now coughing up $300,000+ to fix the glitches and kinks, I love air quotes, from this website. And the administration and the good people of Washington, D.C. have they've seen fit to hire the very individual that helped create this train wreck. I'm just quoting Max Baucus, who wrote it, to help to fix this train wreck. He created it and he's fixing it. It's a hurt and rescue situation. They created a problem to hurt you, now they're going to come in and pretend to save the day when they created this problem. And they outsourced all of this, I'm sure you're familiar with, to a Canadian IT firm. $634 million was sent to this Canadian IT firm, who I'm sure it's just complete coincidence that one of the executives there was a school chum of the First Lady. I'm sure that's all coincidental, you know. Just from the people who screamed about Halliburton. No bid government contract sent outsourced. Jobs outsourced. Your money, our money, outsourced to a Canadian IT firm that has a horrible track record. Are you familiar with the track record of this firm? They botched the medical registry for Canada. They were sued because they didn't finish the job in Vermont. They did the exact same thing on a smaller scale in Hawaii with their state registry. They have a wonderful batting average, let me tell you. And that was the company that our government saw fit to outsource, you know, $634 million contract to, 93 of which went immediately to construct this fabulous website, which, you know what, it could have been done better by a 12-year-old Minecraft fan in the United States. That's a video game my children love, and admittedly, I also play. Or World of Warcraft. You know how many people play World of Warcraft? Their servers are amazing. These are like the two top games in the world, Minecraft and World of Warcraft. And you have individuals who log on millions every single day, and yet their servers don't crash in the time frame that it would take. And I honestly, hands to sky, have really tried to like log on to healthcare.gov and go through the whole thing, and I never got past the 404 for like several days in a row. Because for a while, I didn't know if my employer was actually going to keep us on our insurance or if we were going to be dumped into the exchanges. More on that in a minute. But the time that it took, that it would take, even for me to load the page in Minecraft, I could have built an entire city, and I could have killed a bunch of zombies, and then I could have taken a break and joined all the other gamers with their Mountain Dew Livewire and Fritos. And by the way, that whole demo would have done a better job for hardly anything, and you could have kept it all right here in the good old US of A. When the president first spoke about this website, he said, and somewhat enthusiastically, well, we've fixed some things, we've changed it. Yeah, we've added an 800 number to the homepage. You know what happens when you call that 800 number, by the way? Yeah. Well, have you tried going to Obamacare.gov? No, I never thought of that. What is that? A website? Don't know. Yeah, you can shop for plans on Obamacare.gov, healthcare.gov. Yeah. Thanks for calling. Just like that. I mean, maybe not like that. They don't have the NPR voice going, but it doesn't make any sense. It's never worked. And in fact, what did they come out with? On the very first day, how many people signed up?
6.
6 people. How many of you watched the movie Black Sheep with David Spade and Chris Farley? Do you remember that portion of the movie where they're driving down the highway and they accidentally basically get themselves high off of nitrous oxide? And they're pulled over by a police officer. Yeah, they're pulled over by a police officer, and they think that, oh my gosh, we're in total trouble, what's going on here? So the officer leans in and he's like, gentlemen, do you know how fast you were driving? And they look up and they're like, I don't know, like 70, 85, you know? He goes, no. I think it was like 6 or 7. It's like 7 miles an hour. He could basically like run and kind of keep up with them. When I heard that 6 people had signed up day 1, I thought, dude, those screenwriters wrote this. This is Black Sheep. This is the website that's not working. It's not working. They wrote, this Canadian IT firm has failed. This administration, our government, our elected officials have failed us. So yes. And then I heard from Health and Human Services Secretary Kathleen Sebelius. Oh, she's a charming woman. What are you? You guys are so sexist. Come on. She had said, well, that's not how civics work. They don't work for you. She had said, when asked, well, have you enrolled She said, well, it's illegal for me to enroll. Now, she's out there defending a plan that she has no idea what's in it. Because, see, the section that actually deals with this says that the only way that you are ineligible is if you are not a citizen of the United States or you're incarcerated. That's it. I mean, it's pretty wide open. Anybody can join. She lied. She sat there and lied to you. I did a hit, I don't know if it was with Hannity or if it was Greta or Megyn Kelly's program, but I was on with a strategist from an opposing ideology. And you know these strategists, I kind of like, it's like a Play-Doh factory. I loved Play-Doh when I was a kid. Because you know those little cookie stamper things, and you could just put as much play, and you could just stamp out these little figures all day long. Well, there is a factory somewhere in the United States, and they do this with these strategists. They just stamp them out all day long. That's what they do, and they send them out in the world, and they all repeat the exact same thing. Well, if you like your plan, you can keep it. Insurance is getting better. Obamacare. That's all they say. Same thing. It's terrifying. It's like a Children of the Corn thing going on. And I've been on with a number of them, and I'm sure they are all wonderful, amiable people, but they're just so dumb. And they're liars. All of them. Liars. Yeah, definitely. I was on with, I don't remember what his name was. Oh, it was McMahon, the publisher, not the Publishers Clearinghouse guy, but this other dude. I don't remember his first name. Again, cookie cutter. So he was saying that, oh, well, if you like your plan, you can keep it. And I brought up to him a story that's happening in my hometown of St. Louis. I don't know if you were aware of this, but Anthem Blue Cross Blue Shield in the exchanges does not offer coverage to anything in the BJC health system, Barnes Jewish Hospital, which is a top hospital. And it's not just Barnes Jewish Hospital that they are not offering access to. Siteman Cancer Center and St. Louis Children's Hospital. Now, one of the reasons that I know this is because, and I didn't tell this to the strategist, when I brought it up, he said I was wrong and that I didn't have the internet in St. Louis. And I said, well, just because you can't log on to Obamacare.gov doesn't mean that we don't have the internet in St. Louis. It means your site don't work. That's what that is. But the reason that I knew about all of this is because that's my insurer. And so we went through a very interesting period at my employer trying to figure out if we were going to be able to keep our wonderful, wonderful insurance or if we were going to be dumped into the exchanges. And I love my insurance. And I'm going to tell you something. I work hard. I work damn hard. So do you. And one of the reasons that I love to work so hard is because I love to enjoy the fruits of my labor. I work hard so I can go to whatever doctor I want to. I work hard so I can get any treatment if I need it. I can get the medication if I need it. I work hard for that. And now I'm being told that, no. If you like your plan, you cannot keep it. So we had a very uncomfortable wait, but I'm going to tell you something. It wasn't uncomfortable a wait as one of my friends. She works at a pretty large employer in St. Louis, and she just was diagnosed with breast cancer in the past 8 weeks, and just underwent a double mastectomy. Her employer was dumping individuals into the public exchange. Her insurance, Anthem Blue Cross Blue Shield. So she played a life or death waiting game. Because as you know, we have people all over the country who come out for Siteman Cancer Center. This is it's a prestigious place. It's one of the top. So we had a life and death waiting game. Now, if she had been dropped into the exchanges, with hallelujah, she wasn't. She was going to Siteman Cancer Center. That's where she was receiving her treatment. We have the big Komen race in St. Louis, where we have thousands of women, breast cancer survivors, pink shirts, pink ribbons. They're out there running for themselves or for someone else, and it is so ironic to me that in my hometown of St. Louis, these women are running through the streets blocks away from one of the best hospitals and best cancer treatment centers in the country, and yet a good portion of them, if they live in my state and are suffering from cancer, don't even have access. This is life or death. And I am not a terrorist, and I am not an anarchist, and I am not a racist or anything else. I am a woman, and breast cancer is one of my biggest fears. And not getting treatment, not being able to get that life-saving treatment because someone wants to play checkers with our coverage, that makes me angry. And of course, all of these stories, according to Jay Carney, are anecdotal, don't you know? Which brings me to my radio producer, Kevin. I don't know if you listen to my program, you're familiar with Kevin. He is really Jack Roser, who is a hero to me. He is really his age in a 28-year-old body. And he's way more cynical and he's very mean. No, I love him. He's a great radio producer. He bussed in all Kramer from Seinfeld style to the radio studio one day and gave me this startled look. And he goes, "I have to get maternity coverage?" And I go, "Well, Kevin, where did you read that at?" "Well, I was looking at Real Clear Politics, and I was reading some of the headlines, and they all said I have to get maternity coverage." Is there something that the government is not telling me? Like, maybe, I don't know. Are women going to have to get prostate exams too? Is that going to be forced coverage now from Obamacare? Is that how this is going to work? I don't understand this. You know, in most families in Arkansas, they have to get 2 policies. Doesn't matter. A lot of employers down there, they're not covering spouses, that's a huge price increase. They have to get 2 different policies. And so you'll have the wife that has to get maternity coverage, and I'm just using this as one example of how insane this whole thing is. I mean, Elder Jack Roser would have to get maternity coverage. My husband. I mean, it's just nuts to think about this. And they do this because they need these people to make this solvent and to subsidize all of this. This isn't about health care. This is a law that's more complex than the Constitution and Declaration of the Independence. This is a law that weighs more than my Bible. Yes. Weighs more than you. Weighs, yeah. I lift. The guns are just hidden under this, that's all. No, it's all and the millennials are going to get hit so hard from this. They're going to be obliterated over this. I don't know any millennial. And by the way, the insanity of saying, well, we need millennials to make Obamacare solvent, but yet we're going to allow you to remain on your parents' insurance until you're 26 years of age. Did anyone think this out? No. I mean rhetorical. Oh, God. No, they didn't. But I feel bad for millennials. I get this. This is a shameless politicization of life and death. It really is. So, here's, I think, the question. Are we to assume, basically, that our government, was so negligent and so incompetent as to pass something so horrible without oversight? Because, as you know, we're told that to think such is racist or terroristic or anarchist or I don't know what else. There's some other pejoratives that they've thrown at us. Arsonist. Oh, that's a good one. Yeah. Because what we're left to assume then is that it's all intentional. That it is all intentional. I don't think our elected officials are stupid. I think they're some of the most brilliant people in the country. I really do. That's why I don't think that this was incompetency, and I don't think that it was accidental. Because you can't sit here and say that you have the most brilliant minds in Washington, D.C. while simultaneously arguing that they're so incompetent they can't even make a website work. When you have game websites, Candy Crush, for crying out loud. My mother will not stop sending me invitations on Facebook. She just got on, bless her heart. Caps lock, email, everything. And the White House is pressuring insurers to stay quiet about enrollment. So we heard the 6 in the first day. Did you hear about the official from HHS that was pressuring the spokesman of Blue Cross Blue Shield in North Dakota to not release figures? That happened. They were also doing the same in other states. In Tennessee, in Colorado, they were projecting 92,000 plus enrollment, and they got less than 3,000. In Tennessee, they said, well, we got in the low hundreds, like 250, 300. And more people are they're going into Medicaid. They're not, and those numbers are being conflated with even the enrollment numbers. It's a lack of free speech zone as well. No, I don't believe that this was accidental. We've heard a number of elected officials say it was a step towards single payer. And people don't understand what they're asking for. You all know this. I'm preaching to the choir here. You can watch payroll taxes triple, double, triple. Your income taxes will double. That's what every other country does in order to have single payer. We can't handle what we have to deal with now. And they have worse care. We have friends who live in Canada who drive to the United States for care. So the two options before us, we can either gut it, start over. I want real health care reform. I don't care what party you are. I don't care what your political ideology is. I really don't care. To me, it's insane that someone can go get cosmetic enhancement easier than they can get care for their family. And you know why? It's because the regulations are different. We don't treat health insurance the way that we treat auto insurance or home insurance. It should be for catastrophic instances, and it's not treated that way. So we can either gut it, or we can delay it, which is a nightmare. Because all those individuals, the 500,000 in California, the 300,000 in Florida, the 77,000 with Kaiser Health, all of these individuals, we've had more people lose their health insurance than have signed up for Obamacare. All of these individuals are going to be left out there in the wind. Because health insurance companies, their insurance companies aren't going to say, oh, our bad, we're going to reinstate you. No. They're not going to sit here and hem and haw over what Congress is going to do for the next 3 months. They're looking to set their rates for April now. These people are going to be left without insurance, even if it just saves one life. Wasn't that what we were told? Exactly. It's not hard to sell that we have common ground here with everyone. We want real, affordable care. This isn't it. And I'm not mad at the people who believed, and this is really important. This is what I want to leave you all with. I'm not angry at the people who bought into this. I know that sounds crazy because my first inclination is not that. I'm not angry with them. I'm not angry with the people who are now asking questions. You can't front somebody out of what's in their paycheck. You can't fake them out. And the reason is because I've seen, we're going to talk about this on a panel. You got a 30-second headline. They're just not talking about Benghazi. You think they're going to tell people what's going on with their health care? We didn't even have our elected officials read it before they passed it. We're finding all sorts of goodies in there now. I can't get mad at them because it's not reported. You and I, we're all wonks. You know what I do when my husband and I have a babysitter for the night? I know, most normal people go out to dinner and a movie. Not the Loesch's. The Loesch's watch some C-SPAN and eat some wings. That's what we do. That's my idea of a good time. So we live this. We know all the nitty-gritty in this. But the folks who don't spend their free nights watching C-SPAN, they don't. And so now they're like, well, this isn't what we heard in the headlines. I don't want to go at these people's throats. I want to say, you know what? You were duped. We all were. Let's try an alternative approach. You know why it's important to plant that seed? Because I used to be one of those people. I was as progressive as they come. Somebody planted the seed with me. It took a while, but it worked. Remember that when you go back to your communities. Remember that when you're talking to people about health care. It's easy, really easy, to be angry about it and partisan about it, but if you can plant the seed with just a few people, who knows? Who knows what can happen? So when you go back to your communities, thank you, tell them, say, you know what? You were duped. Let's think of an alternative. Let's try something different. You were duped. Let's try something different. Let's have real reform, and let's have it today. Thank you all very much. God bless.